Welcome to the Super Healthy Human podcast with Dr. Rodger Murphree.
Okay, welcome. Hi, I'm Dr. Rodger Murphree. Welcome. Delighted you're going to be joining me tonight. I'm going to be sharing information about how to balance neurotransmitters, these brain chemicals that are responsible for our moods, for our mental energy, our physical energy, responsible for helping us get a good night's sleep, reduce pain. But we're going to focus on these brain chemicals to help to naturally, ideally, that's what we want to do, naturally reduce or eliminate anxiety, depression, and brain fog. This material comes mainly out of my Treating and Beating Anxiety and Depression with Orthomolecular Medicine book, which is out of print, but it's also contained in my Treating and Beating Fibromyalgia book. I'm going to share with you tonight on a website where you can look at a little survey and figure out what brain chemicals you may be deficient in and how you can quickly start to turn that around with just inexpensive over-the-counter supplements. So sit back, relax. If you want to take some notes, I would encourage it. You're welcome to take pictures, screenshots of the slides that I'm going to share with you tonight. But I'm going to run through this presentation, and at the end of it, I'll take your questions. So let's get started. Okay, so this is one of the modules that's in my fibromyalgia rescue program. There's about 30, almost 40 different videos, training videos in there that patients who are clients who come on board and work in the coaching program. This is a do-it-yourself at home. You purchase it and it's yours for a lifetime. I'm always adding things to it, updating it. And then monthly, you have direct access to me in a live group format, where there may be 2 people on there may be 20 on there. Just depends on what I'm talking about that day. But you'll have direct access to me where you can ask specific questions where I can go into much more detail than I can in any of these that I do to the general public. But this comes out of this is a part of the module that's in the Treating and Beating Anxiety and Depression program, excuse me. So there's 12 different modules, and like I said, there's about 30 different videos. There's handouts, there's little sheets that you can print out. There's diets in there, what's the best diet. But anyway, that you can learn more about that. I'll share with you where you can go to find out about that tonight. We've moved the website, so I'm not exactly sure where to send you, but I know you can go to your Fibro store and you'll see on their Fibro Rescue. If you click on it, just scroll around, you'll see some testimonies. But if you go on down, you'll see everything's involved in that program. It's very affordable, and hundreds of people have gone through it and have quite the positive things to say. But let me dive right in about balancing these neurotransmitters. First of all, what are neurotransmitters? Well, neurotransmitters are hormones, and we're going to be focusing on the hormones associated with moods and mental clarity and mental energy. So brain hormones in your health. So looking at in any given 1 year, about 10% of the population, or almost 20 million Americans, suffer from depression. 1 in 3 doctor visits by women now involves a prescription for an antidepressant. This has changed a little bit, but not a whole lot. Some of these slides are a little bit dated, as you can see with the format. But I keep them because it's really pretty much still the case today. It's sad but true. Talking to my patients, majority of them are females, and they tell me that, most every doctor, when they find out they have fibromyalgia, the first thing they want to do is recommend an antidepressant because they tell them they're depressed. Certainly, a lot of my patients do have depression, but their depression is not what's causing their fibromyalgia. Their fibromyalgia is causing the depression. And who wouldn't feel a little bit blue, a little bit down, a little bit depressed, maybe a little bit anxious if you hadn't slept in years, had chronic pain from the moment you woke up till you tried to go to bed, rarely got a good night's sleep, exhausted all the time, had a diagnosis that most people don't understand and most people don't know how to treat. And many people, including doctors, discount and may even suggest that you're a hypochondriac. So yes, my patients, the majority of them are suffering with low moods, but part of that is because they're low in certain brain chemicals that also bring on chronic pain and fatigue and mental clarity issues, as well as irritable bowel. So we're going to look at that tonight. At least 1 in 10 American women take at least 1 antidepressant. Many are taking more than 1 antidepressant. Americans now spend more money on antidepressants than the gross national product of 2/3 of the world's countries. This is just ridiculous because no one has an antidepressant deficiency. I know that sounds kind of facetious, but no one has a Prozac deficiency. No one has a Cymbalta deficiency. Now, you may have neurotransmitter deficiencies, or you may have amino acids, which I'm going to share with you what those are in a moment. You may have the nutrient deficiencies that create these brain chemicals, but you don't have an antidepressant deficiency. As many as 10% of the U.S. population is taking one of these medications. Prescription antidepressant sales reach this, so you can see it's dated, but you can see just the amount of money that is spent on antidepressants. And this is a real old slide here. So selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, these are probably the most well-known, although there's also selective serotonin and norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors. But half the studies show that whether it's an SSRI or an SSRNRI, 70% taking the drug would do just as well taking a placebo or sugar pill. This is based on a meta-analysis where they looked at thousands and thousands of different, hundreds of studies, thousands and thousands and thousands of patients that were in these studies. And it shows that the majority of the people would do just as well taking a sugar pill. Now, I'm not telling you to stop your prescription medication. Please don't do that. You need to work with your healthcare practitioner to do that. I'm just suggesting to you that your antidepressant may not really be doing anything, and it's also possible that it could be creating some side effects that you would associate with your fibromyalgia. Anxiety. National surveys show about 6 million adults over the age of 65 take an anti-anxiety drug known as benzodiazepines. It's interesting. I've been warning about these since my first edition of my fibro book came out in 2003, certainly since my anxiety and depression book came out in 2005. And now I'm finally starting to see on posts on Facebook, on social media, people are now posting, physicians, healthcare professionals, scientists saying that these benzodiazepines are dangerous and we need to really be more judicious with recommending them because they can create all sorts of unwanted side effects, and they could be addictive. Within 2 weeks, you become addicted to them. But they can cause poor sleep, ironically, seizures, mania, depression, suicidal tendencies, ringing in the ears, amnesia, dizziness, disorientation, low blood pressure, nausea, fluid retention, tremors, sexual dysfunction, weakness, drowsiness, headaches. The list goes on. That's all I could put in here with. That's all we need to know, right? 40% of those patients over the age of or 60 or older who take these medications develop what's called tardive dyskinesia, which are tremors. Now, years ago, when I started lecturing, when my book came out 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago now, I was going around to different cities. I was invited to different cities to come speak to their support groups, their fibromyalgia support groups. And I'll never forget this one lady asked me this question at the end of the presentation. She said, can you tell me why my tongue flops around in my mouth periodically? I thought that was the weirdest thing, and I had no idea what it was back then. I wish I was smarter then than I am now. What that was is she was on a benzodiazepine. Now, we talked about her medications and stuff, but I didn't put it together that her tremors, in this case, it was her tongue, was due to the Klonopin that she was taking. Now, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to share with you, enlighten you, so you can start to make some better decisions, hopefully going forward, either working with me in a consult or working with your practitioner. These medications also deplete CoQ10, which is the spark plug of the cell. So when you start to deplete your CoQ10, you might start to see similar side effects that you would take in a statin drug. A cholesterol-lowering medication would also cause you to deplete CoQ10. Just a small amount, a 20 to 25% reduction in your CoQ10 levels can start to bring on things like neurological pain, tremors, tingling in your hands and feet, cold hands and feet, trigeminal neuralgia, suicidal tendencies. The list is really long. Weakness, muscle cramps, spasms, these kind of things. You need CoQ10 because it allows the cells to work, and particularly the muscles. And your heart is the biggest muscle in the body. And once you start to deplete that CoQ10, you might start to develop things like mitral valve prolapse, congestive heart failure, all sorts of things start to show up. The other thing about these medications, benzodiazepines, is they deplete your natural sleep hormone, melatonin. And it's kind of ironic because I can't think of anything that's more anxiety driven, certainly creating depression and mental clarity problems, than poor sleep night after night after night, month after month, year after year. It's one of the biggest stressors to the body, and it's one of the things that really creates nutritional deficiencies and hormonal deficiencies. You certainly don't want to be taking a drug that could deplete and interfere with your ability to make melatonin so that you can get a good night's sleep and wake up refreshed the next day. Well, so selective serotonin uptake inhibitors, we just went through this slide right here. What we see, though, is that individuals who take these medications, they increase their Hamilton score, goes up by 20%. That's it. So Hamilton score goes from 0 to 10. So if your improvement is a 2, that means that you're improved by 20%. About what we see with a placebo, with a sugar pill. They all have side effects. All antidepressants have potential side effects, including, ironically, anxiety and depression, headaches, muscle pain. It's a big one. Diffuse achy muscle pain. This is something I see in my fibromyalgia patients. Could your drug be your problem? Possibly. How would you know? Well, number one, if you're taking prescription medications, you certainly want to look each and every one up. Go to Mayo, there's all kind of great websites out there where you can look up and Medscape and just put your drug in there and look to see what are the potential side effects. You may not have any, but how would you know with that until you look it up? And then how would you know until you come off the medication? So that's the other thing you want to see is your weight gain being caused, your low metabolism, weight gain, fatigue being caused by one of these medications. It could be. So you can just see that these antidepressants can cause problems with poor sleep, they can cause weakness, fatigue, changes in sex drive, low libido, tremors, depending on what antidepressant is. More so the tricyclic, the older antidepressants like trazodone, Pamelor, doxepin, some of those older ones. Stomach issues. So how many of you have irritable bowel syndrome? Probably the majority of you watching this or the replay. Problems with appetite, dizziness, nausea, rash, itching, weight gain, diarrhea. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So the thing about that is oftentimes what I see with my patients, because they're so complicated, they go to their doctor and he or she, they want to be helpful, but all they need to do is to give them another drug. So when my patients go to their doctor and they share with them that they're having trouble sleeping, then they may recommend they get on a tricyclic antidepressant. And then, they're sleeping a little bit better, but then the next day they just have no energy. They're lethargic. They feel bad all day. So they go back to their doctor in 3 months or so and they put them on some kind of stimulation medication like Provigil or Concerta or, some Ritalin, whatever. Or they may go back and, they start to have weight gain. So now they're recommending that they get on some type of weight loss drug, or they're gaining so much weight, they're retaining fluid, and now they're starting to develop type 2 diabetes, or blood sugar goes up, and now their doctor's recommending metformin. I mean, it's just this domino effect where you get on the hamster wheel and one drug leads to another. And I'm really not anti-drug. Thank goodness we have them, but you can't drug your way out of fibromyalgia. You just can't. There's just too many symptoms. And if you're using a drug for every symptom, and that's kind of what conventional medicine does, then you run the risk of all these different side effects. And, before you know it, if you're trying to take a drug to put you asleep, then you got a drug to wake you up, and you got a drug to slow you down, and one to speed you. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So sleep problems, insomnia, about 25% of those taking a antidepressant, a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. This is tragic because, again, if you're not getting a good night's sleep, you're going to feel totally wiped out the next day. You're not going to think as clearly. Your metabolism goes down, so your cellular energy goes down. You start to gain weight or you can't lose weight. You see, because your metabolism goes down, now your digestion, elimination is compromised. Now you start having constipation. You start to see as your serotonin levels go down, because of these medications, depleting your sleep. And that's when you start to make serotonin. You're taking a medication. Once you start taking an antidepressant, you run the risk of having a thing called down regulation. And what that means is that over a period of time, your brain cells that are supposed to be inhibited from taking in all of the serotonin, it becomes compromised. And so you have less and less receptor sites for serotonin to attach to. And now you find the medication quits working. And this is called down regulation. It's very common. It's not unusual to see patients who will be on antidepressant for 6 months, 12 months, maybe 18 months, and then it quits working. So they go back to their doctor, they get on another one, and they get on another. But if they're not careful, they deplete all their receptors with this downregulation cycle. And now they're permanently depressed because they don't have enough receptor sites for their organic serotonin, what they should be getting in their diet and what the body's making. They can't even utilize that. But it's really important to know. I use this a lot. If you've heard any of my lectures, I just think this is so important that deep restorative sleep is key for feeling good. It's key for your body working like it's supposed to. And when we go into deep restorative sleep at night, we're making deposits into our stress coping savings account to allow us to deal with stress. And all day long, we're under stress. So we're making withdrawals. Anytime we're under stress, real or imagined. It doesn't even have to be real. It'll be something you're thinking about. Any kind of stressor, loud noises, bright lights, stressful phone calls from your accountant, from the, whatever it is, your body's releasing chemicals to help you deal with that stress. Physical stress, so if you're very physically active, can create this as well. But when we go into deep restorative sleep, we're making deposits, we're building up these chemicals that the body needs to repair itself and to be able to handle the next day's stressors. So deep restorative sleep is super important for that. So one of the places you really want to start with in helping your mental clarity, helping your anxiety, helping your present, focus on getting a good night's sleep, preferably without sleep medications. Sleep medications have been shown to increase the risk of death by 500%, no matter what the diagnosis is, whether that's cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, it does not matter. Again, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to share with you. You want to look for natural options. I'm going to show you tonight where you can get some free information about that. I got reports, I got blogs, I got videos, all kind of protocols that you can start using natural over-the-counter supplements, inexpensive supplements to help you get into a good, deep restorative sleep each night so your body can repair itself. You can wake up the next day and actually feel refreshed, probably for the first time in years for many of you. So when you're using a selective serotonin re-uptake inhibitor, you need to realize that those drugs don't make serotonin. They only help you hang on to what you have. So those medications are like a gasoline additive. And if we look at a normal brain, someone who's not suffering from anxiety, not suffering from depression, doesn't have fibromyalgia, they have plenty of serotonin, they have plenty of norepinephrine, plenty of these neurotransmitters to work with. But as someone starts to get run down through stress, poor sleep, they start to deplete their stress coping chemicals, and one of the big ones is serotonin. And so this is what a fibro brain would look like. You can see there's just not a lot of receptors there. And if you're using a gasoline additive in an empty gasoline tank, it's just not going to really do much. So this is a normal brain, and we can see if you're using a gasoline additive, whether it's Prozac, Celexa, Cymbalta, Effexor, Brintellix, there'll be a new one out next month, I'm sure. They're all very similar. Paxil, Paxil's on here. They're all very similar. And what these medications do is they help you hang on. They help you hang on to serotonin, but they don't make serotonin. So like a gasoline additive, right? So if you're running on empty, you don't have any serotonin to reuptake, you don't have any receptors, it's just not going to do anything. When you get down regulation, eventually the brain begins to reduce the number of serotonin receptors up to 40 to 60% in some parts of the brain until literally they disappear from the brain. And now you're really in trouble because you don't have those receptors, and you can take all the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors you want to, and you really have an empty gasoline tank. It's just not going to do anything. So what are neurotransmitters? Again, neurotransmitters are brain chemicals, they're hormones, and they're produced by amino acids in the foods that we eat. So amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. Any protein you ingest has amino acids in there. And the sequence, how they're set up, determines what that protein is. It determines whether it's cheddar cheese, or determines whether it's hamburger patty. But in those proteins that we take in through our diet, there are amino acids that will combine with synergistic vitamins and minerals. They turn into these hormones, they turn into these brain chemicals. And so this is so excitatory neurotransmitters, excitatory brain chemicals. These are known as catecholamines, and those are epinephrine or norepinephrine, which is called adrenaline. Dopamine is also another one, and even opioids are as an excitatory neurotransmitter. These neurotransmitters are derived from the amino acid phenylalanine and tyrosine. There's 20 different amino acids. Some of them, about half of them, are essential, meaning that you have to get them in your diet because your body can't make them. The other half, your body can make them from, it's organically can produce them. But the ones that you can't make, you have to get through your diet. There's a potential problem with that, and that is, one, you get so run down your body can't even digest and assimilate and use these amino acids. Two, you could have a genetic glitch. Just the way that God made you, you can't convert the amino acid into the brain chemical, and that happens quite often, unfortunately. Fortunately, you can get around that because while you don't have a Prozac deficiency, you could have a 5-hydroxytryptophan deficiency. This is an amino acid. So normally when you eat a protein, in that protein is going to be an amino acid, an essential amino acid, meaning you have to get it in your diet. Your body can't make it, called L-tryptophan. And I'm sure most everyone's heard of that. L-tryptophan then should convert into 5-hydroxytryptophan if you have the right enzymes to make that happen. Some people do not have the enzymes, and they cannot convert L-tryptophan into the active form 5-hydroxytryptophan. So they're kind of predisposed to having low moods, anxiety, and brain fog. You can get around that by just supplementing with 5-hydroxytryptophan. This is an over-the-counter supplement that you can get anywhere. We sell it in our store. A very high-grade form of 5-HTP that I have produced for my supplement line. 5-hydroxytryptophan, when it's combined with the B vitamins, B3, B2, B6, vitamin B1, magnesium, some other nutrients, this is where serotonin comes from. So rather than using a gasoline additive, you can literally fill your gasoline tank, fill your brain up with serotonin by taking the raw ingredients that make this hormone. And within days, not a month, typically when you start an antidepressant, they tend to give it 4 weeks to build up. You can literally see a difference within days of taking 5-hydroxytryptophan and the right synergistic multivitamin. One study has showed that patients on 5-HTP had a 50% improvement in their mood disorder symptoms. Now, this is compared to 20% on the Hamilton score. So it's already more than double what we see in an antidepressant, a prescription antidepressant. A deficiency of any B vitamin increases the risk of low moods. The government agency, a dietary agency, has said that the majority of Americans eating the standard American diet, what I call the SAD diet, are deficient in at least one B vitamin, if not more. So most people are walking around with B vitamin deficiencies. That's just a given. But if you've got an illness that has sabotaged you, has caused a lot of stress, you're not sleeping well, you're depleting your stress coping chemicals, you're really going to be low in B vitamins, as well as minerals. You need to be taking a good multivitamin. My patients with fibromyalgia take my Fibro formula, which is a high-dose multivitamin, mineral formula with all the B vitamins, methylated B vitamins, very important, CoQ10, malic acid, digestive enzymes, high doses of magnesium, and all the amino acids to make sure they're getting all the amino acids. So B6 is needed to convert the amino acids into neurotransmitters. If you're an individual, you don't dream at night, you may be low in B6. Now, you don't have to remember your dreams, but if you're an individual, you rarely dream at night, you get sunburned easily, maybe fair skin can also sometimes predispose you to that. Car sick, seasick, these are some signs of low B6, and you need to be taking B6. Preferably, take B6 in a special form called pyridoxal 5-phosphate, P5P. Pyridoxine, which is the usual B6 that most people take, is got to convert into P5P. And again, some people, just the way God made them, they can't do that. If you're going to take a B complex, make sure it's in a B6 is P5P form. B2 is needed. I already mentioned that. Folic acid. So folic acid is more effective than standard prescription antidepressants. 92% of those treated with folic acid made a full recovery. Only 70% of the controlled group, there we go, same thing, taking an antidepressant made a recovery. Now, when you're taking folic acid, you want to get it in the 5-methylfolate. Some of you have problems with a thing called methylation. Some of you are familiar with the MHFTR gene and a problem with methylation. So if you know that, you know you need to be taking 5-methylfolate because you can't process just regular folic acid. It actually can create problems. You also need to be taking B12 methylated methylcobalamin, not cyanocobalamin, which is the inferior form of B12 that's in most multivitamins. The Fibro formula has methylated B vitamins in there for this very reason. Low blood levels of omega-3 essential fatty acids are associated with depression. Now, essential fatty acids are fats that our bodies need to work correctly. They're called essential because we have to get them in our diet because we can't make them. So when we're eating polyunsaturated fats, when we're eating those, our bodies take those fats and they turn them into essential fatty acids. The challenge for a lot of people, though, is there's an imbalance between these two main essential fatty acids, omega-3 and omega-6. Omega-3s are anti-inflammatory, come from cold water fish, flaxseed, grass-fed meat, free-range chicken, eggs. You can get them in free-range eggs, much higher quantity in free-range than pasture, than just pinned chickens. So, but what omega-6s do, they can create inflammation. Omega-6 come from grains and seed oils and polyunsaturated cooking oils, canola, safflower oils, corn oil, these things. What we should be, the ratio should be about 1.5 to 1 of omega-6 to omega-3 or 2 maybe. What we see is the normal right now in Western population is about 11 to 1. So we've got all these inflammatory chemicals that are being taken in through the foods that we eat. I want to encourage you really to start eating grass-fed, proteins or free-range chickens and free-range eggs. Make sure you're doing that so you can get more of this good anti-inflammatory, very mental clarity boosting fat called omega-3s, and try to really reduce your grains, and especially eating a lot of animal products that are fed grains so they're filled up with these omega-6s, and when you're eating them, you're creating inflammation in your body. Omega-3s are super, super important. I recommend you take a couple of grams of fish oil a day, so about 2,000 milligrams of fish oil a day. So let's look at this as a brain function questionnaire, and I'm going to show you where you can come back and take this yourself. So if you want to take pictures, you can, but I'm going to take you to the website where you can actually go through, take your time, read through it. But the O group is named for opioid neurotransmitters contained in the hypothalamus. And if you check 3 or more of these, it's a sign you're probably deficient in these opioids. So your life seems incomplete. You feel shy with all but your closest friends. You have feelings of insecurity. You often feel unequal to others. When things go right, you don't feel undeserving. You feel something's missing in your life. You occasionally feel low self-worth. You feel inadequate. You frequently feel fearful. So if you check 3 or more of these, this is a sign that you probably are low in opioids, and we need to address that because boosting your opioids, which are natural pain blocker, as well as helps with mental clarity and helps boost mood. So I recommend you start with 500 milligrams of DLPA. You see this at the top of the slide? DLPA or DL-phenylalanine is similar to the amino acid phenylalanine. It's the mirror image. It's reversed. And DLPA actually creates opioids. And so you start off with 500 milligrams and you increase that every 2 or 3 days until you get up to, you can get as high as 4,000 milligrams or 4 grams. Take it in the morning, take it all at once, take it on an empty stomach. Again, I'm going to show you, I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I'm going to show you exactly where you can go and read more about how to dose this. The G group. So G group, This is from the calming hormone, gamma-aminobutyric acid or GABA. This is individuals who have anxiety. So if you check 3 or more of these, it's a sign you probably can benefit from taking an over-the-counter supplement that would help your GABA levels come up. So you often feel anxious for no reason. You sometimes feel free-floating anxiety. You frequently feel edgy. It's difficult to relax. You often feel a knot in your stomach. Falling asleep is a challenge. It's hard to turn your mind off before you go to bed when you want to relax. You occasionally experience feelings of panic for no reason. You often use alcohol or sedatives to calm you down. So if you check 3 or more of these, it's a good bet you probably would benefit from taking things to boost this. This is, I'll go into detail here and on the when I show you the dosing. But you can get gamma-aminobutyric acid over the counter. We have it in the store, or you can get L-theanine. GABA seems to be a little stronger than L-theanine, but the thing with GABA is you don't absorb it very well. So some people don't notice a big difference taking it. L-theanine, you absorb it. This amino acid L-theanine, you do absorb it, but it's not as strong. So you have to kind of play with that. I developed a combination called GABA Plus that has both of these in there. The reason why some people do better on GABA, some people do better on L-theanine, but when you combine them synergistically, it's even more effective. It typically works within about 15 minutes after you take it. You won't feel tired, dopey, weird, but it calms everything down. And again, if you take it on an empty stomach, it works in about 15 minutes. Now, this is the D group or dopamine. And so if you lack pleasure in life, you feel there are no rewards in life, life seems less meaningful, you're less attached, emotionally attached with others, you feel decreased parental feelings, life seems less colorful or flavorful, things that used to be fun are no longer fun, you become less spiritual or socially, active. These are all signs of low dopamine. And for dopamine, we're going to want to take the amino acid phenylalanine. And again, this amino acid is something you should be getting in your diet, but for whatever reason, if you don't have it getting enough, then you can have a deficiency in dopamine. So you want to take L-phenylalanine, and you start with 500 milligrams on an empty stomach, and you every couple of days you increase that to by 500 milligrams. You want to take it all at once, take it in the morning because it's stimulating like the DL-phenylalanine. And some people will do better with SAMe. I usually use SAMe, acidensamethionine. It's a little more expensive, and I'll show you the dosing on that here in a minute. But SAMe is also an over-the-counter supplement and works very well. It's a really, let me go back. Dopamine is a pain blocker. Let me go back here. So for opioids, you would take Ultram or some of the other medications that are out there for pain. The G group, if this is you and you're being treated with prescription medication, you're probably taking a benzodiazepine, like I mentioned earlier, Klonopin, Ativan, lorazepam, Valium. I'm leaving one off, but prescription drugs would be those are the prescription drugs that would be treating low GABA. For dopamine, you're probably taking Wellbutrin or one of the selective norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, but typically be like dopamine and Wellbutrin, which is very stimulating. All of them have potential side effects, as I shared earlier. The N group or norepinephrine. This norepinephrine gives you mental energy, drive, ambition, zip. It's an antidepressant. It's also a good pain blocker. But if you're low in norepinephrine, you're going to find that you suffer from a lack of energy. You find it hard to get going. You don't have much of a drive. You start projects, don't finish them. You frequently feel a need to sleep or hibernate. You feel depressed a good deal of time, may feel paranoid. Your survival may feel threatened, and you're bored a great deal of the time. So this is norepinephrine, which again is a stimulating hormone. And for this typically you can use L-phenylalanine because it will boost norepinephrine, but SAMe seems to work better and it's quicker. So we're going to talk about that here when I go here in a minute and show you the dosing. Where do you start? You always start with the calming neurotransmitters first. And I just realized the one I left off is serotonin. So we'll go over that one here in just a minute. Okay, so let's do that. You want to start with the calming neurotransmitters first. So what I want to do, I want to show you where you can go and see this for yourself. So if you go to my website, fibrodoctor.com, if you go up to Patient Center, this is where you can find this questionnaire. Now you can see this is about for instead of a consult or the coaching program. There's a bunch of blogs and videos. Here's the store. You can see the store here that has the different products and the things that we're talking about tonight. But if you go to Patient Center, go to Health Conditions, and then you can read this about anxiety and depression. It talks about what I've shared with you tonight. What are neurotransmitters? How do they work? But you can take the brain function questionnaire. It's right here. Okay, and I do a little video to kind of give you oriented. But one that I left off in the slide presentation is pretty important, and that's serotonin. So if you have fibromyalgia, you're going to be low in serotonin. That's just the way it is. And so these are things that would alert you that you're low in serotonin. It's hard to go to sleep. It's hard to stay asleep. You find yourself irritable. Your emotions often lack rationality. You occasionally experience unexplained tears. Noise bothers you more than it should. Seems louder. You have more flare-ups than others. Short fuse. You feel depressed a good bit of the time. You're more susceptible to pain, right? Fibromyalgia. And you prefer to be left alone a lot of times. So this is the S group. And so when you come here, you can read into more depth about this, but it will go into detail about how to supplement. So you can see how to do it here. And the ones I went over with the O group, you can see here. I just want to go to the GABA. Here's the GABA Plus. The GABA Plus is a combination. This is what I normally recommend because it has both the L-theanine and the GABA, as well as some other calming things in here that really help calm things down. And again, it works pretty quickly. Now, again, where do you start? So where do you start? If you check a bunch of those, and probably many of you did, you start with the calming neurotransmitters first. So serotonin and GABA. That's where you want to start. If you check 3 or more of the serotonin, start on the 5-HTP. If you check 3 or more of the GABA, start on the GABA plus. Once you do that for a couple weeks, now you can start adding the other ones that you need that are stimulating. But you don't want to take the stimulating ones until you calm everything down first. Okay, very important. I go into more detail. As I mentioned, the Treating and Beating Anxiety and Depression book is out of print. I don't think we have it as an ebook on the store. You can look and see. I go into much more detail about how to reverse anxiety and depression with orthomolecular medicine, with all sorts of other natural approaches and how to know what to take. But in my Treating, Beating Anxiety and Depression book, you'll see this information's in there as well. And there's also in the back, there's the little questionnaires in there as well. But that's this book here, which is available as an ebook. Right now, you can actually get it free because the 6th edition is coming out in the next couple of months. And it's totally been redone. If you go to fibronow.com, you can get a free copy. I know I covered a lot. I went real fast, but just know you can see all of that I shared with you tonight at yourfibrodoctor.com, both in the health condition section and in videos and blogs that I share more information about how to turn around fibro fog, brain mental clarity issues, anxiety, and depression. I hope you found this helpful. I want to encourage you when you go to the website, yourfibrodoctor.com or superhealthyhuman.com, if you will join the newsletter, it's free, or some of the special reports you can get, they're free. Once you get on the email list, get notified. Look for me on YouTube as well. You'll see lots of videos on there about what I've shared with you.
Thanks for listening to Super Healthy Human with Dr. Rodger Murphree. Remember, your body is designed to heal. It just needs the right tools. Stay curious. Stay consistent. Stay super healthy. If this episode helped you, leave a review or share it with someone who's ready to take charge of their health. The information provided in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your physician before making changes to your health regimen. This content does not substitute medical care.